Hello everybody. Okay, we're finally to solving quadratic equations, which will take us about 3 days. And by the end of it, you'll have a calculator program that you will be proud of and will use a lot, which will be cool. Okay, so quadratics are something that have a square in them, usually 3 terms, something like this. Okay, now the goal is to get x by itself. So you could think, well, maybe I could put this x over here and take a square root, but the problem is then that would get rid of the square here, but it wouldn't really get rid of that, it just to have a square root of x on the other side, so that wouldn't help. So we're actually going to factor it and first put everything on the left. So just follow me through this. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and then I get 6x squared plus 7x minus 3 equals 0. And then I'm going to factor that left side, and I'm going to use an x box. So let's see, 6x squared, negative 3. This thing doesn't really want to focus tonight, does it? That's a little better. All right, and they multiply to get negative 18x squared and add to get 7x squared. So that's going to be 9x and 2x. One of them has to be negative, so negative 2. 9x, negative 2x. If this is going too fast for you, then go ahead and just give this a stop so you can factor it on your own first. Once you're done, it should look like this. Okay, make sure you pause the video until you're all caught up with this part, because the next part I really need your attention for. So, right now, this is like all this stuff is really like a number on the left, and all this stuff is a number on the right, and then there's a multiply between them, right? So really this is like a number times a number equals 0. Well, if a number times a number equals 0, then you know that one of these two numbers has to be 0. It can't, there's no other option, like it can't be like 2 and negative 2. If you multiply those together, you get negative 4. One of these has to be 0. Which means either that the left parenthesis is 0 or the right parenthesis is 0. So if you set them both equal to 0, you'll get the two answers to this problem. And these are easy problems to solve compared to that one up there. So in the end, you should get 1/3 and negative 1.5, which makes sense because for a quadratic, that is a problem that has a square in it, you usually have two answers. Okay, your turn to try. 2x squared minus x minus 15 equals 0. Now this time it's already all on the left, so you got to factor it and then set the factors equal to 0 to solve. Go ahead and pause the video right now and give it a try. I'm going to do it too, so make sure that you're paused right now, not just letting me go for it. Welcome back, I assume. Seeing if your answer matches mine. Alright, I got the factors x minus 3 and 2x plus 5. And then I'm setting them both equal to 0. And I got 3 and negative 2.5. And by the way, if you put 3 or negative 2.5 into that original equation, or in the first one, if you put 1/3 or negative 1.5 in the original equation, you will indeed get the other side. Okay. So, almost done. I got 3 quick more examples to show you. So what I just showed you was factoring to solve, but sometimes you can actually just take a square root to solve. We're going to do 3 quick ones. All right, the first one is, what if you have x squared equals 17? Well, to get x by itself, you take a square root. Square root. We don't have to do a factoring or anything like that because there's no x there. See how the first one had like an x squared and an x in it, which is what made it so hard. And this one just has an x squared, so this one's actually pretty easy. So x equals the square root of 17, but you actually have to put a plus or minus sign there because a negative, so it's basically saying that if you take the square root of 17 times the square root of 17, you would get x squared, which is 17. But also, if you take a negative times a negative, you get a positive. So if you take a square root, you always need to do a plus or minus. Probably an easier explanation of that would be like if I had like this, x squared equals 16, right? If I take the square root of both sides, I have to do plus or minus 4, because 4 times 4 is 16, but also negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Okay. Now, what if you have a problem that looks like this? The difference being, of course, that you have a square root and then you got a negative underneath it. Well, that's where complex numbers come in that we just learned about. So remember that plus or minus 5, because the square root of 25 is 5. But then you also have an I there to show that there was a negative under that square root. And then finally, for example 5, a little bit harder one, x minus 4 parentheses squared equals 12. All right, so we're going to take it apart by working on the outside first, then on the inside. So first I'm going to do a square root of both sides, which leaves me with x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. But 12 can actually be broken down to 4 and 3, 2 and 2, so I know that I got a pair of 2's there and a 3 left over. So I'm going to write that out as x minus 4 equals, let's see, plus or minus 2 square roots of 3. That's, remember how you break down 12, just like we did a couple lessons ago. See where this is all going together now. Then add 4 to both sides, so you end up with x equals 4 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3. All right, your homework isn't very long. Make sure that you jump back in the video chat if you've got questions about any of these or the examples I just did or any of the homework problems. This is due tomorrow. Shouldn't take you too long. Have a good day, guys.